And we are back here once again with another episode of the MSK show. And this is going to be episode 14. We're going to be doing another segment on the show. Like I always like to call this one Content Creator Spotlight, presenting X Person. And the guest today is going to be Extrazero. This is going to be his first appearance on the channel. And it's nice to meet you, man. How are you doing, dude?
Yeah, doing very good. Thanks for having me. So I know we had to put this one off a week, so I'm glad to have found the time. So sorry for the delay in getting on here.
That's okay, man. Yeah, he had messaged me. He was like, you know what? My wife wanted to cuck me tonight and actually take my balls and go and be with Tyrone. It's the exact words he mentioned. I was like, you know what? Tyrone needs his love too, as you know. Yeah, man. But we're gonna start here, as I do with every single person who is new. We'll start with their origin story. So, how was your life growing up, actually?
Well, I grew up in a small peninsula. I couldn't say the word, waterfront town, and very simple life. Grew up a gamer. I've people that know me that as a Transformers guy. I've people are like, how long have you been collecting? Literally my entire life. I'm one of those people that never grew out of toys. And I have one of the largest collections of Transformers on the East Coast. And I'm very proud of that collection. And, a lot of people know me from the Transformers communities and in that sphere of the web. For the last 7 years, I was the founder and host of the Figure Action podcast. And I recently broke off and started my own Transformers only show. It is called, it's just Extrazero is the channel, but the show is called 0 Hour. And I go live every Tuesday at 9, shameless plug. And I also do other content. I do vlogs, and I'm going to start a new series just going over toys from the past called Extra. I believe I want to call it Extraspectives, but I'm still trying to, shop that name a little bit. But, as far as my life, grew up a gamer. I got involved in graphic design at an early age. I was in high school, and I sailed the 7 seas and got Photoshop after we had a guy come into my 9th grade art class and demo it. I was like, I gotta have that. And the funny thing is, I made a meme before we even knew what memes were. I had a friend that had the digital camera, emailed me a picture. We had this really eccentric school lunch guy named Earl. And all he could say was, hot lunch, who's hungry? And he would say it like, hot lunch, who's hungry? That was all he could say. So I specifically pirated Photoshop to make a meme of this dude. And I edited him into like a backdrop of Metal Gear Solid. And it was Metal Gear Solid. I made him like Metal Gear Solid 2, The Sons of Hungriness, which is crazy because then the actual game ended up being called The Sons of Liberty. But I got involved with graphic design. So I've been a collector for basically my entire life. I've been a meme maker for more than half of my life, which is crazy to think about. Like once I made that one, I couldn't stop. Like I was making memes before we knew what they were. And then like when I was in high school, YTMND popped off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. You do. Yeah. So we were making YTMNDs. They never really picked up, but we made a few. They had Grimace Ate My Balls. We would make some of those. And those were like early memes where you just take like obscure pop culture character and put them in an image, and it was, XYZ ate my balls.
So after high school, did you go to college, actually?
I did. So I went for a little bit. I had to drop out to help take care of things at home. So I was going to be an art major, and I dropped out of I dropped out of college. I got my diploma from high school. I dropped out of college to help take care of things. And I kind of spent some time not knowing what I wanted to do. I ended up, believe it or not, my aunt offered me an opportunity to do medical billing. So I did medical billing for a little bit, and worked for a company doing that did total joint replacement solutions. And then I moved over to another company that did like a splint company that they paid me a little bit more. But when I was at that company, I've always been passionate about computers too. So going back, I got my computer when I was in high school. Learned a lot about tech. It became another hobby of mine, and I got pretty proficient with computers. And it was probably like my 3rd year with that company, and I befriended the director of IT, this dude named John. And I remember like he was walking up and he had a stack of Androids and a stack of iPhones, and I was like, "Oh man, was like, you gonna share some love, man? I was like, I could use this phone. And he's like, nah. These are for the sales rep. And I was like, it's like, so what are they gonna do with them? You gonna do some like virtualization on there, have them connected into our systems? And I was like, I knew about virtualization.
Mm-hmm.
And he got this real serious look on him. He's like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, "Yeah, you gonna like get virtualization going on those? And he's like, "Yeah, how do you know about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I read, I dabble." And it's like, "What do you?"
It's like those conversations you have with those characters in TV where it's like they're saying something and the one character is looking like, "Huh? Hello?"
Well, no, it was the gears were turning, and he's like, "No, what are you doing here? Like, why don't you come work for me?" So. I'm the rare guy that got to skip college, and I just happened to network my way into IT. And I worked that job for a little bit until there was a Medicare whistleblower that caused that whole company to go into turmoil. And I ended up getting in with a recruiter. I started making phone calls. I got in with a recruiter who got me a job working for a pretty reputable company. Cut my teeth there for a little bit. Then when I wanted something better, called that recruiter back up. She got me another gig, and then she got me a gig working for a Fortune 100 company.
Mm-hmm.
So I got kind of lucky. I don't want to say Forrest Gump my way, but I definitely networked my way past the need of college. And I've since left that job. I was at that job with the Fortune 100 for almost 9 years, and now I'm with a new company. My whole life has been getting ahead by talking, by meeting people, by being myself, networking, and just trying to be as authentic as I can. Whether you think I am or I'm not, that's like legitimately how I've done things and operated. I'm not saying don't go to college, but if you have
you could
soft skills,
basically not go, you would say not go.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't have any college debt. And sometimes I wish I'd gone, because I did have the opportunity to go to college parties, and they were awesome. My friends all went. Yeah. So I got a bit of the college experience, but I did have to work my ass off. So, but then I also didn't have to work my ass off after getting into debt and being in school, working my ass off in school, and then getting into the real world. And then, hey, you don't have the experience. I got the experience. I just don't have the piece of paper. And that does act as a challenge sometimes. But the beauty of IT is that, one of the things that they don't tell you is that when you get into reputable companies doing IT, they have money in the budget for training, and they'll pay for certificates. And in many cases, those are just as good as college. In fact, this week, I just got another certificate, and I became a certified Scrum Master. So I'm now actually a CSM, which is pretty awesome. So I get to add that to the end of my.
I imagine that makes some pretty good money, actually.
Well, I mean, you can get jobs just off of that certificate itself. Like, there's a lot of companies that hire 6-figure positions just for CSMs.
Wow! Holy crap! So the thing I'll ask you this now, since you dropped out of the college, is that looking at it now throughout the whole system, I would just tell people, like, it's just not worth it. Because, in school, they really try to push you, get a scholarship, go to college. And if you don't go to college, you're going to be just this bum person who's going to be doing these odd jobs. And it's like, but if I'm that bum person doing those odd jobs, at least I'm not in debt. They don't mention that. They never mention the debt part.
No, they definitely don't.
They're literally trying to sell you a dream that has not really been even just like that road to success for a very long time.
I'll tell you, like, when I did drop out, I thought I was a failure. I thought like, I'm never going to make it, man. I thought that, like, I was going to be working some administrative job, and that was going to be the end of it. I don't want to say I got depressed, but the thing that was always on my mind is that, like, at some point I got to go back, and like, that's the thing. It's like, when you start going and you're living at home, and then, you've dropped out of college, you've helped out people financially, then you're out on your own. You're like, how do I afford to live somewhere and afford to go to school? And that's where I was like, I felt stuck for a little bit. But nobody, and I do work with interns a lot. It's something I pride myself on, and I always tell my interns, even though they're in school, I'm like, never underestimate the power of networking. Never, don't think that this internship is going to be just a one and done thing or a bullet point on your resume. You can actually turn an internship into a job. You can get an entry level position. You come in, you show that you're a leader, you show that you're capable, you get noticed, you get on all the right people's radars, and you can actually. And I've gotten a few interns hired for some of the companies I worked at, like legit, before they even graduated, they got their careers. So it's always been a good feeling. But yeah, the power of networking is very strong, and I think a lot of people sell themselves short in that regard, and they feel stuck. And I can't blame them, because I was in that mindset at one point, and I just got lucky, and I because I got a mouth, I guess, not a mouth and like I curse or anything, but I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm not afraid to speak to somebody because oh, hey, they're the director of IT. What's my business talking to them? I just I'm friendly and personable, and I'm not afraid to share what I know.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say to people, if you're trying to network, is try to have a normal conversation. Don't have the person's first impression be like, I'm trying to get something out of you.
Yeah,
essentially,
100%. Natural, organic conversations.
Eye contact. Give a firm handshake if you're meeting the person. Don't be like one of those guys who they talk to girls and they're like fucking cockeyed and they can't.
Right.
You can't even look properly. They're looking at your feet or something like that. Actually give off confidence. I swear, man, like giving off confidence can change an entire demeanor about how someone just even views you. Because like you said, first impressions matter. So if that first impression of you to that person is you being a complete weirdo, then, that's just automatically off-putting,
Like I always like to, I don't like try to force my humor. I ended up, I forget which hurricane it was. That hurricane that hit, I think it was Hurricane Sandy, if you remember that one. I think it was like 2012. I mean, I remember with that IT director, he sent out like a very panicked, because we were getting hit hard by that hurricane because it came high up the East Coast, and they were like sending us all home. And he sent out a panic email and said, instead of saying shut down, he typed in shit down your computers. And I remember calling him like, John, can we really do that?
So after getting the job you wanted throughout life, at this point, you ended up getting married, I imagine, right?
I did. I actually, I didn't get married until not too long ago. I got married in 2022.
Oh,
yeah.
You're married in 2022. Oh shit. You'll be married for 2 years. Holy
Only
crap.
2 years. Yeah, we've been
so
together.
What made you like settle down with this lady then? Were you just one of those guys where like, I'm like Charlie Harper from 2.5 Men, I guess got girls coming out the wazoo every day?
I don't want to say I was like Charlie, but I it took me a long time.
I was like Charlie. That's what you really wanted to say. Me for sure. Yeah.
you might have been. Yeah. No, it took me a long while to find Miss Right. I needed to find somebody that shared a lot of my values, that was cool with my hobbies, that just like, the thing I love about my wife is that she's very authentic. She comes from a big Italian family. She says it how it is all the time. Yeah. And it's just, it's weird today in the dating scene. Cause even, I've always dated girls that were like about my age. And, the thing that's been strange is you get some girls that are serious and then they change like that. They're like, yeah, I'm just not feeling this anymore. And they never really give, a good enough reason. It's just, I think it's a maturity thing, but like when I met my wife, she had that factor. She was very serious. And we gelled together. We have a lot of things. We're very different in a lot of ways, but we also have a lot of things that we both enjoy. And it's nice having somebody that is willing to do stuff that you like to do. Obviously I go and do stuff she wants to do too. But if I'm like, I want to go to like Dave and Buster's and play some games. Like I haven't been to an arcade in a while. She's like, yeah, I'll go. She'll tag along to conventions with me here and there. She doesn't mind that I have that nerdy side to me. She's very supportive of it. I mean, to a degree, sometimes she gets upset that, I got too many robots in my collection, but,
she's like looking at your bank account going, why is this man buying all this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every now and then it's like, we could have gone on several vacations, Are
you buying Transformer Hot Toys?
Not the Hot Toys, but I do buy 3-0.
Yeah. This guy's insane.
Yeah,
Everyone, holy
yeah.
shit.
I don't get too many of the 3-0. In fact, I try
Mhm,
to limit myself to just the Bumblebee stuff. Though I have picked up a few of the MDLX, but
mhm,
yeah, I mostly collect the masterpiece stuff anymore, which is
mhm,
like the high end from Takara Tomy. They
mhm,
actually do transform. I like those because they're about as screen accurate as you're going to get in both modes, and they're highly articulated, like all the fingers move and everything. Well, not all the
mhm,
fingers, depends on the size of the figure, but I just kind of like having this representation of like all the characters that I love that mean something to me. It's basically like a museum of the brightest spot of my childhood that I can just
mhm.
walk down and see them all, and it brings me a lot of happiness.
Hmm. So people know you as a big Transformer fan,
Yep.
actually. So I'd imagine you started with the original Transformers
G1.
G1. So
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, Transformers for me came a little bit later in my life. The first Transformers animated project was that movie, right? Or do they have a series corresponding with it?
Well, there was a mini series that came out with More Than Meets the Eye. So that was a 3-part premiere that came out back in '84. So I was born in '85. And I want to say like around, it's crazy because I can remember all the way back to being like 2 years old, which is nuts. But I vividly remember being about to turn 4 and really being into Transformers in '88. Like I was barely, I, you know, I'd been walking, I hadn't been talking that long, but I was just like fixated on these things. And then of course, by '88, '89, everything was winding down. They had
Mhm.
they had the movie in '86, and I
Yeah.
rented the hell out of that movie, like the VHS. I watched it so many times. Um, but back then, like stuff didn't move so fast, like it would stay in syndication. And the
Mhm.
cool thing was being a little bit younger than the people that like Transformers originally targeted. It was hello hand-me-downs. So, we had friends of the family who, their kids were growing out of it. And then it was just like, yeah, we'll give you. So I would have like all these new well, they were new to me coming in all the time. They're like, oh my God, I got Scattershot. I got Six Shot. I got Ultra Magnus, all these characters that I liked, and they were just kind of like coming in random. So it was like I kind of had like, I wouldn't say it was like Christmas all the time, but like when somebody was getting rid of their toys and they would come to me, it was awesome. And I just I enjoyed. I think that's one of the things that instilled a love for collecting, because I was like proud when I would get these in, because you know while pop culture back then didn't move as fast, like they wouldn't stay on the store shelves. Like a lot of the
Mhm.
more popular characters, like I never owned Soundwave originally. Like he was a very
Mhm.
popular one, and they didn't really reissue him, and I never got him as a hand. I got Blaster though. I love
Mhm.
Blaster. But it was always cool when I would get those core cast members to have in my collection, and I think that's really what started my love of collecting, was just kind of completing the cast and making my own adventures, because I was told there weren't any new episodes, but up here there were plenty of new episodes,
Yeah.
you know.
The other thing with Transformers that is crazy now is because Transformers, when you talk about it as a franchise,
Mhm.
since Michael Bay and Paramount have tarnished the entire brand's just name in general, it's pretty much, I wouldn't say dead, but it's
Well, it's
essentially just a
declined.
carcass. It's literally a
Yeah,
big giant dead whale
yeah.
drowning, a big giant dead whale just floating in the ocean, and someone is constantly just kicking it down the water, hoping it
It,
stumbles upon a
it,
bunch of great white sharks to eat it.
it has highs and lows. I'll say that,
Yeah.
because like the first Bay movie. So full disclosure, I don't really like any of the Michael Bay movies. Period. Like when I first saw, and this might sound like blasphemy to some of the people, because
Mhm.
when I first saw the 2007 movie, I came out of that theater angry. I was like, "What the fuck was that? That wasn't Transformers."
Mhm.
Now, going back and rewatching it and trying to watch it as its own continuity and as a sci-fi movie, the first Transformers movie really isn't that bad. The worst part of it is the human characters. John Turturro, who's normally awesome in everything, is played for laughs in that movie, and Shia LaBeouf and the two parents are
I never
annoying.
understood. the weird love even the first one we got. The first movie is one of those like ultimate like it's so good it's bad kind of movies. It's like the ultimate you'd say
Yeah.
popcorn flick because
Yeah.
overall the experience, like the action and the overall like I would say how would I phrase for average people? The CGI, the special effects, and the action are kind of what carry the movie. The
Right. It's the
dialogue,
spectacle.
yeah, the
Yeah.
dialogue is really bad. The pacing
Mhm.
is so bad. That
Yeah.
movie drag. If you go back and rewatch it now, that movie drags on
It's the
so
human.
much longer.
The human
Yeah.
element is the worst
The
part.
human
Like,
element definitely bogs the movie
Yeah.
down a
now
lot.
it starts out strong. I will say, like with Blackout, and like they're at that base, and I
Yeah.
think Qatar, and Blackout transforms for the first time, and you get that classic noise, and it's at night. It's shot very well, but after that, the movie is just it's got valleys and peaks, and there's parts of it that are like, wow, I can see what they're going for. Like, I do like that sequence when like Barricade encounters Sam and he's like chasing him, but then when they start getting into the comedy element and he's like, "Are you ladies man 297?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, come on, man."
I think the best part of the movie starts happening toward the very end when Optimus Prime is fighting one of the Decepticons on the highway.
Oh
And
yeah,
then leads into
mm-hmm.
the battle in the city. I feel like when
Yeah.
it goes from that part, like when it sets up that Megatron's coming back with Starscream,
Yeah.
and then that part when Optimus is fighting the Decepticon on the highway, and then going into the final battle in the city, I feel like that's where the movie peaks at. Because I feel like that's the only thing people remember about it. Because those first two acts are a complete slog to get through. If you
It's
go back
a
and
movie
rewatch
called
it.
Transformers, and it's barely about Transformers.
That's
the problem.
And then
Now,
the biggest problem I always have with it, Optimus Prime was made so weak in that movie compared to Megatron. Like it'll be like fucking, I don't know, Vegeta from Saiyan Saga fighting Goku. It's that level of difference. Like he was so weak in that movie. It's just awful to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I mean he did take out Bone Crusher. That's the one that like the big mine sweeper that he like sticks the sword through him, you know. But yeah, they definitely didn't make them equals, and they did try to like make Megatron to be like, you know, this big powerful thing, but it never
like he tried with the presence. Like when Megatron comes to the movie, he is like the ultimate boss. But then you would also factor in, why is Optimus Prime not on his level? It was just so power scaling was just so off. Like even like for me with the first movie, I don't give movie ratings anymore. If I were to rate it, it would probably be like a 5 out of 10. I'd probably have that in the same range as like Dark of the Moon. Like I think Dark of the Moon falls in the same traps as the first one does. The first halves are slogs, but when you get to the final battle, that's where it really starts picking up. But to be fair, if a movie's only good in the third half and the other two are kind of a drag and it's pretty bad, I only like the first and the third one. The second one is absolute.
The second one's terrible, and then the fifth one I would say is the worst movie I've ever seen.
The fifth one, the fourth one's pretty much.
The fourth one's dog shit, but especially when they get into like the Transformium stuff, and I'm like, Jesus.
There's only one part I even like in the fourth one. That's toward the very end when he meets the Dinobots, and the one samurai one is like,
Drift.
I fall because I like that. That's Optimus Prime. There's like 3 moments in that movie I like. Other than that,
I did like Lockdown. I will say I did like Lockdown.
Yeah.
But then when you get the Lockdown ship and he's got the Roombas with the googly eyes on him, I was like, come on.
Yeah. So I remember like Dark of the Moon ending and making $1 billion. And I remember people on like forums back then, they're like, man, when are we going to get a Transformers 4? And I was like, they're probably not making a Transformers 4. Got to find out. They announced one because on 2014, Shia LaBeouf now reprising his role. And Mark Wahlberg is the new lead. And Age of Extinction is just so, outside of like few things people might like, so damn bad. Last night, I actually saw last night in theaters. That was just actually terrible. I don't even know what that was made for other than just, I don't know what reason.
Poor Anthony Hopkins. Like he got paid, but
God. And then I didn't see Bumblebee. I didn't see Bumblebee.
Bumblebee's so good. But what sucks is that you get to Rise of the Beasts and they do the Maximals okay. Because I'm a huge Beast Wars fan. They do the Maximals okay, but you go back to like the mopey Optimus Prime. Like it sucks because Stephen Caple, the director, you could tell he's a fan of Michael Bay. Now it's more coherent than any of the Bay movies. Like I can tell you,
the pacing's not all that bad. It flows a little bit better, but the human characters, not even Steve Ramos, it wasn't him that really pissed me off. It was that one black lady. What was that one black lady there for? That she was so trash. I don't remember her name. She was just awful.
I think the character Dominique, but I can't remember. But she was just kind of like there.
Dominique.
she was just kind of there. And and it's just like, why? And it's also like, it was so strange. It's like they have their beast modes even before coming to Earth, and then they have like, it's like, why do you guys all have like, couldn't they have made it take place in like Africa or something where the beast modes that actually make sense because they're in Peru? What are a cheetah, a rhino, and gorilla doing in Peru?
Do you remember seeing the first trailer and it felt like they were going to have a much more bigger presence in the movie?
Yeah.
But when you actually watch the movie, the Maximals, I feel like they're just unnecessary and not even needed. They're just there. They get no screen time really.
AirRaiser never transforms.
Yeah.
And Cheetor and
Scourge
Rhinox.
is just Scourge is a worse version of Lockdown, if we're being honest. Like Scourge is, I'd rather just have Lockdown then. If we're gonna give me that. Scourge is terrible.
The thing about Scourge too is that one, you can't even tell it's Peter Dinklage because they modulated his voice so much.
Mm-hmm.
And also, why would Unicron make any of his heralds look like Junkions? Like, you would think if Unicron was making his own minions, he would make them like super high tech. Because like, if you remember the '86 movie, when he reformats the messed up Megatron, Skywarp, Bombshell, Shrapnel, Thundercracker, he makes them like super elegant, super futuristic looking. Like Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Scourge all look super high tech and imposing. And then you have like Scourge, like he's like duct taped together basically,
Yeah. And Rise of the Beast, I think another problem I had with it was a movie where it was trying to just not be as bad as Bay's movies. So it never really tried anything different. It played it really safe. And then even in the movie Rise of the Beast, this is technically a spoiler, but it won't matter because they undo it in the end of the movie. They kill off Bumblebee, only to end up bringing him back.
Right.
And it was like, okay, you're taking risks, but then you undo your risks. So what the fuck is going on here?
Same with Mirage. Like, the craziest thing about that was I normally dislike Pete Davidson, but he was the best part of that movie.
Mirage was the best part of the movie. Yeah, certainly a highlight. Yeah, so like he was at least trying to have some fun here,
Yeah.
And then they try to connect it to Bumblebee when Optimus Prime was like, "I know one cared for you, B," and it's like, wait a minute, wait. If this is connected to that, then why can't we just have Haley Steinfeld then?
Exactly. She was great.
Like, I think she's actually not a bad actress at all. I'd rather have her in the movie over than Steve Ramos because at least you have that connection there with Bumblebee, right? So it's a connection they don't even have to develop anymore because it's already there. Like, I don't understand why they didn't keep her because people forget Bumblebee was originally supposed to be a prequel to the first movie,
right?
But they're like, you know what? Let's just call this a new continuity. We're like, what?
The thing is Travis Knight wanted it to be its own thing, but the dickhead producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, who's
that guy.
Look at his career, man. Like he's had some winners, but he's also had some stinkers. Like a lot of people didn't realize he was the producer from Madam Web.
Yeah, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. He's been a producer on like I think every Transformer film or project since Michael Bay.
Yeah,
and they've been just even Michael Bay he had the interview back in 2022 before Top Gun came out, and they asked him like, "Why'd you keep doing these?" He said, "Well, he basically admitted he only did it for money." And he said later on, I just kind of made them because I liked making them. It's like, what in the fuck? What is it? Do you like? Okay, so you did it only for money. And people have to factor in the reason why Transformer movies have constantly been dropping less and less at the box office ever since basically last night, because everyone just looks at the movies like they're just basically. When you talk about Transformers to any random person, they're like, "Man, those Michael Bay movies were really bad. I hated them. They're all explosions, dirty jokes, and action." That's really all it is.
And the worst part is the action was so incoherent. That's what was great about Travis Knight coming in and doing Bumblebee, because like you could actually see what was going on, and Bumblebee was in the movie for the whole thing. And Transformers 1's actually a good movie. I've been trying to spread. I went in that movie with I went in the movie with no expectations.
I go into these all expectations now. That's why people ask me, like, they ask me, are you going to go watch Transformers 1 anime movie? I did a trailer reaction on the first trailer, and the
trailers are bad.
So bad. First trailer was actually just pitiful,
but
awful.
I'll tell you why the trailers are bad. It's because D16 and Orion change throughout the course of the movie, and they don't want to tell you why they change, and their voices are different because they're at different stages of the movie. As a result, because they don't want to spoil anything, it comes off like Brian Tyree Henry and Chris Hemsworth's performances are really inconsistent, when in the context of the movie, it makes complete sense and it happens really organically. But this is why I think that we need a return to overdubs in trailers.
Yeah, I think if they want to salvage this universe, which they're not going to because they're doing some G.I. Joe stupid crossover, which I'm telling you right now, I already made a video about it. I got to cut it on my Iron Man podcast, the other one I used to do. Got to cut it out. The video's already done. The reason why these movies aren't going to do any well, because if you look at the past success of G.I. Joe, and those movies all stink, those are all terrible.
Yeah.
Transformers box offices have been diminished every single movie since The Last Night. Factor in the only reason why the other two movies, 3 and 4, made $1 billion. Yeah, because those 3 movies right there, those 2, Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction, only made $1 billion because of China. Actually, if you look at the movies domestically, they've been performing worse domestically with each release. It's only China that really kind of props up these movies. Even they stopped doing that with Dark of the Moon. They were like, yeah, these are just not good. Transformer movies have performed less and less every time. And the only way they're going to salvage this, we're going to mix it with G.I. Joe. Every G.I. Joe movie has failed. Every one of them. Those don't even have, at least Transformers has had success.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe's had no success. And Rise of Cobra stinks. Retaliation stinks. I don't know what, I don't count Snake Eyes. That's not really a movie.
Oh, Snake Eyes was so bad.
That is the worst movie of 2021 by far. There is nothing else beats that. That is just straight up character assassination on levels I don't even want to explain. That's just what make me angry.
The only thing it got right was Scarlet and Baroness. That was it.
It sucks because I did like the Storm Shadow. I did like the actor they had chose. I feel like it's the winner for Storm Shadow,
but of course,
so wasted.
Yeah, and of course with Storm Shadow, he never even dons the
neither of them do.
Yeah.
The thing is, now Paramount wants to pair 2 dead franchises together for what a dead flop, a dead collaborative flop. The Transformers G.I. Joe movie, pure factor in, if the individual franchises don't make any money with new releases, then why would a collaborative effort do it? Right. We're not in that time period of like, oh my god, I gotta go to the theaters to see a freaking crossover. If any movie does that, it's probably better to do it with Marvel and DC stuff. No one's checking out a Transformers G.I. Joe crossovers. Actually, if Paramount were smart, they would go to Universal and be like, hey, we'll box office 50-50. Transformers, Fast and Furious, that would get you money. You know how ridiculous those Transformers movies are? With Vin Diesel driving Optimus Prime. I mean, not gonna lie, people hate the idea. That would be $1 billion idea. I'm calling it right now.
It would get butts in seats.
Not G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe hasn't put any butts in seats ever.
Well, the problem with G.I. Joe is like they have the classified line and it's doing well, but the problem is it's not selling itself to a new audience. And there's always this dialogue anymore that like, well, kids don't play with toys anymore. Everybody's moving to tablets and Fortnite, but it's just like, somebody that collects these, right? Well, they're not making like these are the ones that they're aiming at adults. This is like one of the 40th anniversary box sets. It's really nice. It goes back to like one of the old comics. What sucks is that the kids lines, because I've picked them up for my cousin's kids. And
do you see the toys there? Because like when you go to the toy section, I'll go to like Walmart sometime and get some ghetto buttfuck ones to show up. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Toys there are always pretty stocked. It feels like I'm seeing the same exact ones every single time. The only stuff that I think is sold well is like they have like little anime toys every now and then. The Dragon Ball Z stuff I know sells decently well.
That sells well.
Yeah. And then there's a few other ones that do, but normally the toy sales for a lot of franchises have just not been there, especially Star Wars. We know this now.
That's another problem too, right? Is distribution. So some of the cooler stuff, like you go to a toy store, what are you going to see? You're going to see a bunch of ancillary characters. What aren't you going to see? You're not going to see an Optimus Prime like this. You're going to see a dinky. Amazing. Yeah, well, this is one that was a Walmart exclusive that they actually cell shaded.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I remember that.
And I have the Megatron here too. They actually.
Did you get the Todd McFarlane Page Puncher Optimus Prime toy line thing?
I haven't. I've been looking for it. All I've seen is the Wheeljack and the Bumblebee.
I just wouldn't. I found the last one at my local Walmart. I would just go online and buy it because he did a Transformers collaborative effort of like I think. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things with Transformers where this is a very lucrative franchise. You can make it. It can literally be their next MCU. If they actually, I don't know, put in effort. Literally, I'll tell you right now, cancel every movie, take 5-year break and start over. Why are we it's the same thing DC did with DC movies. Why can't they just start over? They know these movies don't make money. Stop. It's over. If people have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to Transformers, all they're doing, at this point now, is just kicking a can down the road. It's worthless now.
They need to adopt good stories too. Speaking of McFarlane, I put up a vlog Sunday, this past Sunday.
What,
I
sex
went
video? Whoa.
no. I went, and so this is the Skybound Transformers. So
Oh, you
this
got
is
that cover framed? Oh, that's cool.
well, this is the #1. This is the reprint, but I did a meet and greet with the author writer Daniel Warren Johnson. I got to meet him, and this is a really good book. Really, really good book. It like the IDW
I read
comics.
It. Did you read the full volume 1? I read volume 1.
I did. I bought the trade paperback. I waited for the
me
trade
too. I have it over
paperback to
there.
read them.
We already reviewed it. That is truly
So good.
one of the best. That to me right now, unless I read the other ones, I have Duke, I have Void Rebels, and I have Cobra Commander. That right there is my favorite. That's in my opinion the best trade of the year. Like that is truly some of the best comic books I've ever seen written in a long time. I'm waiting for volume 2. Volume 2, I'm getting that instantly day 1.
It's coming out soon.
It comes out in November. It comes out next month. Yeah. I can't wait to get it. They said it got even better after the first arc. That's crazy.
What sucks though is that Daniel has stepped off of Transformers. And
yeah, they said he's stepping off after after this new arc after volume 2. So that would be issue 24. He would step off, right?
But what sucks is when I met him, I was like, dude, you get it. You get Transformers. I wish you were continuing with it. He's like, no, but he's all about, the moon is following us. That's his new book that he's working on and he's put out with Image. That's what the whole signing was for.
Oh yeah. So after basically issue 18, which will be the next arc, he's done. And the problem here, I'm not trying to say the next person they're going to hire isn't going to be as good. Not only did he set the bar, not just to like incredibly high standards, I just don't have any hope the next person's just going to do it as good. And I would say this, just have it be good. You don't have to do it just as good as him. Just do something good that people can enjoy.
Right.
Don't try to rewrite the wheel either. Don't do that.
And he didn't do that. Like he got the characters. He made the Decepticons very brutal, but he got who Optimus Prime was.
That was the big part. Yeah.
Like, that first issue, minor spoilers, but I urge everybody to read the book. Like when Prime first lands on Earth, and he accidentally steps on that deer. You know what I'm talking about? He steps on that deer and he realizes that he's taken a life and that gets him. And it's like, that was so powerful. It sounds silly to say, but like when you look at the panel and you look at the art and you look at the emotion in it, but then Prime's also got that side to him. Like, like when he gets the new arm, not to spoil it for anybody.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? There was another part in the book, just like the deer moment, when that one character got shot and he had to rush to the hospital, and the Decepticons are trying to blow up the hospital. And with the part where after the character gets the medical treatment and Optimus is like has no arm, and the kids are like the people that are sick are asking him, "Hey, like, what are you? How do you transform?" It's just such heartwarming moments for Optimus. Like I was just using Peter Cullen's voice in my head when I was reading the book, and I was just like, damn, this guy really does get Optimus Prime. There was so many great moments in that book by far, man. He really does get it. And they actually do, spoiler for him, they actually do kill off Bumblebee in that first arc, and no, he doesn't come back. Maybe he does in the future story that I haven't read yet, but that was another way of creating stakes too. And they gave Starscream to be the leader of the Decepticons. Now, to be fair, he did kind of subvert your expectations, and most people expect Megatron to be the leader, obviously. But Starscream, the way he made him the leader,
he's brutal.
You almost don't even notice Megatron's even there anymore. Yeah. And that's a way to respect a villain while also not cucking him. The image of his presence is still there. You can still feel the character there.
That's Yeah, they made them threats, and they drew the line between the Autobots care about life and the Decepticons, for the most part, don't. And they did a really good job. Well, I should say Daniel did a really good job, and I was very humbled to meet him. So it's a good year for me meeting people. TFCon's right around the corner. I got my tickets to meet Peter Cullen, Frank Welker. I'm waiting for the tickets for Michael Bell to come up. I never thought I'd get an opportunity to meet Michael Bell. He's a legendary voice actor. What
did you think of Transformers Armada? That's always been my favorite animated Transformers series.
Armada was cool. Like it came out like when I was in hhigh school, and
they were Tsunami era.
They were banking heavily off of like the Pokemon craze, and they were banking off of the Gotta Catch 'Em All thing with
I remember that.
It was like Armada isn't the best story, but damn, was it fun.
It's emotional too. It had it was very like emotionally driven when they got to like deaths and parts.
Smoke screen, you know, that
the
whole thing.
Wheeljack episodes. People's like, that's like people's. What's crazy? That's not the best episode of the show, but everyone loves the Wheeljack episode. That episode was really good. I will give you that.
Starscream having a conscience and you know, basically kind of finding common ground with the kids and sacrificing himself.
Yeah, gosh,
you know,
man, the Star Saber, the shield arc, the blaster, all when they rolled up in the base and killed one of them, and you had to revive him and shit. I love the power linking that they did when Jetfire and Optimus Prime power linked. I thought that was cool as hell, honestly.
Yeah. And then they got Overload in there. So I actually have the third party one. Like there's a company called Fans Hobby, and they make a masterpiece scale Armada Prime, and I have their Jetfire and Overload, and you can combine them. You can combine all three of them. I recently got their Star Saber. They're coming out with the Sky Boom shield and the Omega Blaster, and
I think if you want to go real crazy with the live action movies, just do that.
Did you see somebody actually did a live action Cybertron Prime transforming?
Really?
Ooh, yeah. Cool. Let me pull it up. It's on YouTube. It's like it's like a 10-second long clip. So if you remember, they had the Unicron trilogy, right?
Yes.
And so in the Cybertron one, he was like a space fire truck. I'll put it in private chat so you can see it. But somebody did a fan-made CGI render, just recreating that one sequence from the live action movie.
I did see this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, where you look like an actual fire truck. Yeah, that looks sick. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, that looks great. Crazy how someone literally in their basement probably did that. And our Hollywood movie studios make it look. You know what's crazy? What I also didn't like about the later ones, like 4 and 5, they made them look more alien. Why did they look more alien for Optimus Prime? It's just weird.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make them look more, to give them more character, because I think in the first 3 they kind of looked like junk piles, and I think that they thought that by like streamlining them, making them more organic, they'd have more character. And yeah, they were a little bit more colorful, like Drift and Crosshair stood out, so did Hound, but they also didn't translate well to toys. Now I do have some figures that have impossible transformations. Like there's a company called Unique Toys, and they actually made a Lockdown and a Prime that in both modes look like what they're supposed to, and they don't have compromised articulation. I'll put the Lockdown one in the private chat so you can see a picture of it.
So I'll say, everyone knows you're a big Transformers fan. Are you a biggest fan of Transformers, that you are G.I. Joe, or G.I. Joe is almost on the level of Transformers?
I wouldn't say G.I. Joe's on the level of Transformers. I definitely grew up with the cartoon, and for a minute I was collecting the classified line, but it just it took off way too much, and I was just like, I got to draw the line.
Money-wise.
Yeah. They are doing a collaborative series, and I've picked up a couple. I got the Megatron that turns into the Hiss tank, and I got the Cup that turns into the Triple T. And I mostly got that Triple T because I love Sergeant Slaughter, and they said that was the only way they were able to do the 3 3/4 inch Sergeant Slaughter. And I was like, I gotta have that. So I'll probably get whatever they do for the Prime, but I don't have the Bumblebee and I don't have the Soundwave. I can enjoy other people's collections. I can enjoy looking at. I do have like the card back Joes, but those are up on the wall. But Transformers has always been my big passion, and I'm a much bigger fan of Transformers than G.I. Joe. But I do love G.I. Joe a lot.
Well, I just love that people can see how good Transformers is, at least from a comic point of view, because we're at this point now where there are people that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars to write these live action animated movies, right? And then you have someone who's just a comic book writer, which no discredit to him. He's able to write a completely cohesive, flowing Transformers storyline, because he does the art too. He's not just he's doing the art too, and he can do it. So if he of all people can do it, and he's doing it, he's doing the art and he's doing the writing, I have to believe someone of them can do it. I can't not believe
somebody
it.
Can. But we unfortunately we just have this weird thing where the right people for the job aren't getting picked anymore, and it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Every now and then you get somebody like a DWJ who's the right guy, and then it's like, well, okay, hey, you're doing a really good job on Transformers. He's like, yeah, I want to tackle my passion project. It's just you got to find somebody that's passionate about it, not somebody that's just like there for the paycheck. I think that's part of the problem too. Somebody's like, yeah, I'll write for Transformers. Sure, how hard can it be? Just because they want to get something on their resume, like, yeah, I worked for Image through Skybound and wrote for Transformers and did the art, but it's not their passion. Like, but for Daniel, it was a passion of his. It's just that he had other plans, and he's only one guy.
Yeah, and the thing is, they can't rely on one guy to basically carry the entire comic book industry too. Because the thing with the comic book industry, as you know, when someone like him is there and he can write good stuff, this happens for a lot of other people too, like Joshua Williamson, and even I don't like this guy that much, Mark Waid. They have like these people that were good and still are good, but they know that they're kind of like scarce compared to new people they can hire. So they put these guys on everything. I guarantee after Daniel gets done with this new project too, they're going to try and put him on something else because they know now that his name will sell books actually. And then I hope they don't run the risk of like putting him on 3 different titles, because I think that's what happened with Jonathan Hickman too, where they're putting him on so much stuff and they're having to delay certain books and get things done. Man, it's godly. Finding good creative people is probably hard to find now.
it is. And then also too, it's just like, for some of these companies, it's just like, well, hey, what's our return on investment? Because again, a lot of people have this perception. And again, I love the franchise, but when you're saying it's dead, I wouldn't say it's dead, but it's definitely a franchise in decline. And I think that we also have this problem too, where the stuff that's coming in for the younger audiences, like Earthspark, was not good at all. And they
what about the Netflix one, right?
That was Paramount Plus through Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I remember Netflix did an animated.
Well, Netflix
3D.
did the War. Yeah, they did the tie-in for the toys. They did. They did Siege, they did Earthrise, and then they did Kingdom. The problem was when they did Siege, they were already into the Earthrise toy line. When they did Earthrise, they were already into the Kingdom toy line. And when they did Kingdom, the Kingdom toy line was already off the shelves. So they were making media for product that had already, you couldn't buy it really anymore unless you were finding it either at the stuff that didn't sell that you could still get on clearance, or maybe they were reissued and repainted for other purposes. But it's really hard now. Like, companies don't believe in brand synergy anymore. And it's like the stuff they put out for kids, they make the cheapest toys possible. And when I say cheapest toys possible, they're hollow. And they are like really super hollow. Like the stuff they market for kids, like there's a guy they used to have a China Mang Motion, and he got like one of the Titan class Optimus Primes for Transformers 1. And the thing is hollow as a toy shovel. Like he actually scooped up water in it. And when you create products like that versus like what they're putting out with Jazzwares, what they're putting out for like Jack's Pacific, like those Mario toys are actually really good. They're way better. Like I actually have the movie Mario here, and they're way better than they have any right to be. They're dense plastic. They're made like toys like I grew up with, but they have modern articulation. They have that gimmick where the eyes follow you, which is kind of nuts.
What did you think of the Transformers 1 animated movie?
I loved it. Like I said, I went in with very low expectations, and I didn't know what to think of it, but friends of mine had gone in and seen it on the 14th. So the movie came out domestically, officially on the 20th. And I kind of mulled it over. I said, well, I'm going to see it at some point because it's Transformers. I've seen every one of the movies in the theater. And I said to my wife, I was like, okay, I guess we'll go on, the following Saturday. And we went, and I didn't know what to expect. And when it was all said and done, I turned to her and she's like, I think that was the best Transformers movie. And I was like, wow. Now I still hold the 86 movie in the highest regard.
Oh yeah.
And for me, is it the best movie? No, it's got some plot holes. It's definitely got some plot holes. It's definitely got some 80s cheese. I love the soundtrack to death. I've met Vince DiCola in person. I have in my basement, I have an autographed vinyl that he personalized for me. Vince also is the guy that did the Rocky IV soundtrack. Super, super nice. One of the nicest people I've ever met associated with the franchise, to be honest. But she was like, I love that movie. And I was like, yeah, me too. And as far as where I rank it, I actually rank it number 2. It's the 86 movie, it's Transformers 1, and it's Bumblebee for me.
Oh, okay.
As far as, and
so,
then 2007.
The thing I was gonna bring up was that like people when they watch movies like that, well, they always say, "Well, it's a kids movie," and then I never understand that because then if people use that line of logic, then that means that they're basically not even calling it good or bad. They're just saying, "Well, it's a kids movie." Well, if you're still
Well, this
talking
is
about it,
PG-13 though, which is weird.
yeah, it's crazy because Transformers is not it's not even a kids brand. It's made for all
Yeah.
ages, actually. You
Yeah.
know, when
Well, this movie I think is more made for general audiences, but it happens to be an animated movie. I hold Transformers 1 akin to the first Iron Man movie.
okay,
You know,
a
like
nice
it's a
little
movie that,
start, yeah,
right? Because you could have looked at Iron Man and said, "Well, it's a comic book movie; those are for kids." Even though we had Blade, which was an R-rated movie, and you know
yeah.
you had the Ben Affleck Daredevil, which crappy
Mhm,
movie, but it was very dark and pretty violent at times.
mhm,
But you know, there was that stigma that comic book movies were meant for kids, and
mhm.
even though you know Iron Man was a very CG heavy movie with a lot of spectacle, very colorful, it was fun. It was
Mhm.
made for everybody. It defied
Yeah,
its genre. The thing about Iron Man though is it had a really good trailer.
yeah.
You know,
And I think the reason why people point things and knock them down as kids, and I always tell people, even if it is a kids movie, that doesn't. If it's good or bad, we should just be judging it off the merits of that
yeah.
because that all because like if the kid were to watch that, they're not going to understand potentially how good or bad it is until
Mhm.
they get older. Anyways, they on a
Yeah.
service level might be able to tell you why they do or don't like it, but this is this notion with animated projects where they're looked down upon because they're not like live action, and it's like
Mhm.
why does that matter if just because the
It-
movie is in a different format doesn't make it
Mhm.
worse.
What's crazy about that too? You ask anybody that will dismiss something as a kids movie, you ask them what their top 10 favorites are, and chances are there's going to be a Disney animated movie in there.
Yeah, those are literally clearly marketed towards like
Mhm.
5-year-old little girls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also had the early Pixar stuff. Like, there's a lot of
True,
people. It's like
yeah.
Toy Story or,
The
you know,
Incredibles, yeah.
yeah, Incredibles. Wally's another one. Like, you
Mhm.
watch Wally. Wally's not a kids movie.
No one's going to tell you Up is a bad movie
No,
ever.
and that's one of the most emotional gut punch movies that they did since Bambi.
Yeah. I never understood the it's a kids movie. Well, whenever I asked someone that was it good, like can you tell me what you
Mhm.
like? Well, it's a kids movie. That doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to like look down on it or think it's bad because it's just a kids movie? People factor in Batman the animated series was
Oh.
intended for younger audiences on Fox Kids.
Mhm.
They literally didn't want them to do certain things because of the audience that was watching it. And but
Yeah.
that show is pretty darn dark if you go back and rewatch it now.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
Ugh, I
And
don't
then
get people, man. It's stupid.
movies back then used to hit different too. Like, you know, Shrek,
Yeah.
right? You watch Shrek as a
Yeah.
kid, watch Shrek as an adult, and you'd be like, I never noticed that joke when I was a kid. You know,
Mhm.
I never noticed that. And you know, the line in the movie, you know, donkey ogres are like onions. We have layers. Well, you can write a movie that can appeal to multiple audiences all at once. That's just called being a good writer. You can write a movie that has layers where, you know, there's something in there for the adults, but it goes over the kids' heads. And then
Yeah.
there's some, you know, something for the kids, and the adults don't get it, but then there's something for them. Like you're hitting people different. And that's what a good writer does. Or you create characters that resonate with people, like Malcolm in the Middle, right? Most people, when they watched
Mhm.
as a kid, they hated Lois, but then people that become parents, they watch it as an adult, and they've got kids, and they can suddenly relate to Hal and Lois on different levels. You know?
Or there was God, what's that movie? The Sonic movies that have recently come
Yeah.
out. The Sonic movies
Mhm.
are pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Minus the little things that they do in the second one with the whole black lady. Other than that, the movies are good. People will say, "Oh, those are kids."
The wedding
There's
plot line that went nowhere.
Yeah, it's so cringe. Yeah, they only use
Yeah.
that to set up like the other ending post credit scene, but it's like, well, you could have just did that
Yeah.
without that. But I get it; they were trying
Yeah.
to do it for like comedic effect or whatever. But the Sonic movies themselves do very like a lot of people like them, and those
Yeah.
people. Sonic is rated basically everybody. It's
Mhm.
like I forgot what it's saying. It's everyone can like Sonic. It doesn't matter if you like it. People factor in. Kids are the one that are paying for the tickets at the movie theater. The adults
Right.
are. So if you
Mhm.
don't impress the adults with what you're trying to show them, they're not going to take their kids to it. You know, to be fair, it might be a kids movie, but did you
Yeah.
impress the adults that are going to be paying the money to go see the movie with the kids? You know,
Right.
and this is the thing is people treat, and I get it, kids' minds aren't developed obviously, but they're treating them as if like they can't do anything media wise because they're just a kid, and it's like, well, how are they going to ever understand what different levels of media are if you're
Mhm.
treating them like they're idiots? You know, Japan doesn't do
Right.
that. No other country that I know produces media does that for them. Only we do because
And,
we're just very sensitive here.
and that's why I brought up Shrek, because like you can create something that has that universal appeal, and that's where you can get, and that's
Mhm.
why good writers matter, and people that can write those layered stories. So there's something there where it's not a chore for those adults to get there. And I think that the nice thing about Sonic, that, you know, again, I'm not a huge fan of some of the more recent 3D games, but they're still hitting the mark with the 2D games. But Sonic has still maintained a fan base. Like, they've put out media that has resonated with kids. They've put out shows that have resonated with kids. They have toys that kids
Mhm.
are picking up. That's why I say, like, Jack Specific is still kind of killing it in those markets. Those toys are selling. Um, they're hitting all the marks, and then they can get the parents in, not only by, hey, I grew up with Sonic, but by making a movie that's not a chore for them to go and see, or doing something like, oh yeah, we're going to cast Keanu Reeves as Shadow, you know, because, you know, you have a lot of people like the moms, so, ooh, I like Keanu, I'll go see it,
Yeah.
you know.
I just didn't want Hayden Christensen casting. When he was rumored, I was like, please no.
I didn't know
Or
how I
Jason
felt about
Momoa,
that.
too.
Oh
Jason
yeah,
Momoa was like,
God no,
no. Jason Momoa would have been,
no.
please no. Hayden Christensen, like, people say, well, Hayden Christensen, he was looked down upon when he was in Star Wars. Watch that guy in Jumper. You tell me if that
Yeah,
guy's
that's an
quality
underrated
actor.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like it, but his acting is like nothing super special. It's like he's just
Jamie
kind of
Bell
meh.
stole that movie.
Yeah. No one
Yeah.
remembers Jumper. I went and bought that at Walmart one time because it looked cool from the promotion material. God,
It was a cool
that is certainly a
concept,
movie.
man.
It's great. It's a great concept, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like, God
You
damn.
can
But like, Hayden
teleport,
Christensen's a
live
great
like a
actor.
king.
It's like,
Yeah.
all right. Rachel Bilson's always pretty cute. I
Yeah.
will give her that.
And nobody remembers that Samuel L. was in that movie either.
God, Samuel Jackson's that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Black guy hunting down a white guy. Maybe committed a hate crime there.
That
Well,
was that
all she
era.
did-
That was that era where like Family Guy even had that joke where Brian was working as an adult film director, and Chris walks in, he's like, "Oh, it's Samuel L. Jackson. He's in everything."
Yeah, like people think The Rock's and everything now. For them, it's like, guys, we've had many popular actors in every. Samuel Jackson's even randomly in like Netflix movies you'll watch now.
Yeah.
He just will take any job just to get money, which I respect. You know, sometimes doesn't matter. Got to get a paycheck because you know bills ain't
he's
paying
got to
themselves.
be one of the highest grossing actors. Period.
Yeah.
You know, you think
I'd imagine he's probably not, if not the highest at this point. Has to be with all everything he's done.
Who is the highest grade? I think Frank Welker is number 2. The voice of Megatron, just because of all the voice work that he's been in, and all, you know, when they count highest grossing, it's like it's the sum of the parts, like the movies you've been in.
Did you like Hugo Weaving voicing Megatron?
Wow, Samuel L. Jackson is the highest grossing actor of all time. Hugo Weaving was a bad pick for Megatron. They picked him because at the time he was kind of popular, coming out of the Matrix trilogy and V for Vendetta. That was a Michael Bay thing. I think that they didn't even consider Frank Welker for it, which sucked. The irony of all that was Hugo Weaving ended up not liking the role because they didn't give him anything really to do. So I felt you could tell he was bored in the role. He didn't contribute to it at all. He didn't have any presence in the role. He wasn't memorable at all in the role. So no, I thought he was a bad pick as Megatron, to be honest with you.
There was one part in Dark of the Moon I did like where it was like, you taught me freedom was everyone's right. And they started fighting each other, and like you were gods, and he took his arm off. Like, if the entire movie was just that, it'd be a fucking 8 out of 10. But now it's a complete pile of shit.
the end of Dark of the Moon, I think, was the thing that people liked about it. Though I didn't like the fact that that Megatron finally comes to his senses a little bit, because in that continuity, it's kind of rumored that Megatron was a Prime, depending on the comic.
Yeah, because there was that graphic novel they put out for the second movie that apparently a lot of people like the graphic novel. Apparently, from what I read, it's like I'm reading anything based off Michael Bay. You guys are crazy. I'm not reading anything based on that franchise. I'd rather forget they exist. Actually,
there was some stuff in there that was interesting. Like they made it in that Ironhide, if I remember correctly, was originally a Decepticon because he was part of a nomadic tribe on Cybertron that Megatron liberated when he was a gladiator. So he had some loyalty to Megatron, but as Megatron started becoming tyrannical, he ended up seeing the error of his ways and siding with Prime. So there was character development there, but there was no character development really in the movie, except for like when somebody was about to go out the pasture, you know.
Remember the part in Dark of the Moon where Optimus is hanging from those wires? And I was thinking to myself, why didn't he just cut himself? He has a sword.
Yeah.
Most dumbest way of keeping a character out of a movie.
Yeah. That's stupid. Just, again, that's a sign that like they
Michael Bay's just
they ran with the first draft of the script.
Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson in those movies. Yeah. Holy crap.
No, you know, the thing too is I've never met Tyrese, but they used to have a convention called BotCon, and then they changed it over to TFCon. And apparently like Tyrese just had a lot of fun working on those movies. And like when he went out to TFCon and BotCon, he was just like hanging out. He was like in all the stuff and just the fans and the fandom. So I can appreciate that about the guy that like,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know,
the other few things I asked before we head out, which is the first one, which is how did you ever start doing YouTube? Actually,
so if you look at my channel, I my first video is from 20. I'm sorry, not 20. 2007.
So you've been on YouTube since it started. That's crazy.
Yeah. Again, I've been a lifelong collector, and I used to write for a site that's kind of now defunct called Powit TV, and we started out around the time of like Giant Bomb and Destructoid, and I got my start, doing some freelance video game reviews. I think my first reviews were mostly on the DS, and I started noticing a lot of people. There's some OGs like Pia and Bolt Matrix, who, funny enough, I've befriended. He was one of the OG toy reviewers, and he actually lives near me, which is pretty funny. So we've met and hung out a few times. But, I saw what they were doing, and, it's like, I'm buying these things. And at the time, I only had so much money. And I liked what those guys were doing and helping guiding my purchases because, they were a little bit older than I was, had a little bit more expendable income, and they'd get this stuff. And this was in the days like when you didn't get a dime off of YouTube. Like you just did it because it was a passion thing. And I was like, I'd kind of like to get into doing the reviewing stuff. I'd like to share my thoughts because I collect these things. And back in those days, man, it was hard. I had to have like one of those DuPont or clip-on lights like for a contractor site. I had one of those, and I still have the camera. Let me show you what I was recording on. Where is it? Maybe it's in the next drawer. Here it is. I had this little camera, and I had to like,
man, that is old.
God, camera, man. And I had to rig up a clip system, and I had to like set it up right, and I had to do multiple takes to make sure I got it in the right spot. I had no editing equipment. And man, in those days, it was tough, especially.
I remember doing podcasts on Skype. Remember the only way to really do this kind of thing is on Skype. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that and funny you mentioned that. I did some of the reviews, and I was like, back then, like it was like if you had a Mac, it was easier to edit because Macs came with all the tools out the gate. And it's like back then, it was like I was really tight with my money. And it was like, well, what do I choose? Do I choose this path or do I continue on with my hobby? And then I just got into doing like the Skype podcast. So I did the Powitcast for a while, and I don't even know if that's up anywhere still, but I had a lot of fun doing that. So, like I started off podcasting like back in 2010. I would get, I'd come in on the Powitcast. I took some time away from it for a bit, and I'd pop on. His friends were doing shows, like they'd be like, hey, we're looking for somebody to be on. So I'd come on as an infrequent panelist. And then I really started getting back into it in 2017. So 2017, I went to TFCon. I met up with a bunch of people. I started popping on shows talking about Transformers. Then come 2018, I started my own show, Figure Action, with a bunch of friends. T-Man 978, he's a big Transformers YouTuber. Kicked it off with my buddy Deluxe. He's also another big YouTuber. And I did Figure Action for like I said, my last, I stepped away just because scheduling was getting a little hectic, and I wanted to just do Transformers, and they wanted to do more of like the stuff that I wasn't collecting. So I said, okay, I'm going to step away. We're all still friends, but I stepped away to dust off my old channel and do Transformers only. But yeah, I've been doing YouTube for quite a long time. Back last year, I was doing a lot with memes on Twitter, and my buddy No Green Rocks.
You're part of Legion of Memers, actually.
Yep. Yeah. So No Green Rocks noticed me, and also going back, I brought up Powit, where I was originally doing game reviews. Ended up meeting Lethal Lightning, and now I'm part of Gronk Squad. So I just talking earlier, jobs and networking, just meeting people, sharing what you know. That's all it's ever been for me. The
last thing I'll ask you for that one is there anything you learned about podcasting that these are your set rules now? Because I feel like when I first started doing it, I always wanted to do it, and I was always watching podcasts, and I loved the format of it. And I did my first one. It was called The Real Takedowns. So cringe. Back in like 2020 when things were locked down. I've had several different podcasts throughout my life. Man, it's been so many. I had to cancel the other one, not because I did it wrong. It was because I messed up in formatting it and basically making it what's the word? It was the synergy of making it together on the other platforms. So I had to restart it the way to basically salvage what I was doing. Is there anything you'd know now that you're just like, okay, these are my rules at this point?
Yeah. So like before the show, we were talking, like, make sure you have your notes done. Don't just do a show to do a show. If you're coming in, make sure that you're organized, make sure that you don't have to be a point of authority. Sometimes you can look at stuff subjectively, but be honest about what your approach is, but also be knowledgeable. Come in, read the material before you start, make sure that what it is you're talking about. If you have a guest on, don't bring a guest on knowing nothing about them. Make sure that you've checked out their socials, checked out their content.
That's another underrated thing too. Check out their videos to see if they can have a conversation, because sometimes I've did many one-on-ones throughout my entire time, even when they were pre-recorded on my other bigger YouTube channel before I had to rebrand it to this one because YouTube took me not for hate speech, gay. When someone can't have a conversation, do you know how hard it is to pull teeth?
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's horrible. It's not even this is bad. Like, it's one of the most excruciating things is when a guest can't have a conversation properly. Actually, I'll just be like, hey, yeah, my internet's going out, or the show's over, because I'm not sitting there doing that shit. Not even.
Yeah, close. It's rough, man. It's rough because you don't want dead air, and then you're starting to feel it. The audience is starting to feel it too.
Yeah.
But on that, I say all that to be organized, be knowledgeable, but also sometimes don't be afraid to fail. Like, you have to put yourself out there. You have to learn from your mistakes, because, that cliched saying, why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up.
Yeah.
And, you start out doing your own stuff. You might say it was cringe. You might say, I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. But when you recognize what you did wrong, you can pick yourself back up. You can course correct. Either you can relaunch and rebrand, or you can just fix what you have. And the third thing is, and this has never been an issue for me, but network, offer to go on other people's shows, be willing to go on other people's shows, learn from them, be very cognizant of what people do and how they talk, and make sure that you're not a mic hog. Make sure that you're giving the other people the opportunity to speak. Watch them, and make sure you're having an organic conversation in the process. You don't want to make it like a turn-based battle in RPG, because that's not real.
Yeah, because then, people are just talking and talking, and they're not actually listening to when someone's talking. They're just trying to get to the next thing to say. Yeah, I always tell people this. If you ever have a podcast and it's not going the way you want, I always do this myself. I'll just restart it. I will restart it until I get it exactly the way I want to, which is what I did now, because I messed up on the synergy portion. And the only way to salvage it is to start over, which, I can take everything I've learned from every podcast I've ever done and now apply it to this show and have it be my long-standing show. The other podcast, which is the League of Legends one I'm doing tonight, that one's at like 270 some odd episodes. I've been doing it forever, honestly, and eventually people go, oh, I'm just starting out. Well, the episodes will pile up when you keep doing them, but it's not just to do episodes to do them, it's to understand, like, are you producing a quality, consistent show each time is the goal.
Yeah.
The episode number means nothing if the quality of the show is garbage, actually, you know?
Yeah. And I guess two more things. One thing we talked about before the show, it's like you can have a lot of friends, you have a lot of people on, but keep your core cast to like 5 people or less. I think
I
that's the
agree.
sweet spot.
Yes.
You know, you can have a lot of friends, but a big panel, you have so many people talking, you have so many ideas, it doesn't allow for cohesion for the audience. You have to be mindful. Like, yeah, you can do a hangout stream. Sometimes the chaos is fun, but if you want to have a meaningful conversation, try to keep the chaos tight, try to keep it intimate. And I think
I
the
would
most
say less
important,
than 6 people if you're gonna do that. At least less than 6, nothing more than 6. It gets, unless you're doing like a fun open night, chill, whatever. That's because people know that what they're getting into. If you're gonna be a podcast and you're like less than 6 people, because it gets so hard trying to everyone talk. You can't even talk if that's many people on. If you have more than 10 people, try 10 people. That's crazy. I no more 10 people streams for me. I am good. That's not worth it.
And I guess the last thing too, like we talked about before, is like, you know, the one thing is if you're a guest and the topic you're not vibing with the topic, don't say, why are we talking about this? You brought this one up.
Yeah, that might be the most disrespectful thing to say to someone. It's that, hey, why are we talking about this on this person's show? Because you're on that person's show and you should respect what they're talking. Like, what? I don't know how that is the one thing that will always trigger me when someone does that. I hate doing that. God, that irks me so much because it's just, well, if you don't want to talk about the things you're talking about, then why are you even there?
Right.
You know? Right. Or you have some, I'm seeing, that's another thing I would say people do. Because I would say the best thing people could do when coming to running a show is try to get people that are knowledgeable on a lot of things. That way you don't have to have some sort of like expert on. You just have people on that know a lot of this stuff already, and you simply just talk about things because you're all on the same level. There's going to be people that don't know other topics as well. Like I can't talk about Star Trek or wrestling, but I wouldn't do that. Other people can, but I wouldn't have it as a topic for the show. But if someone does bring up a topic for like wrestling, I'll let you talk. Go ahead. I'll just chill back and listen. Honestly,
same. I'll be honest. Like I'm like, all I know is the Attitude Era, and that's about it.
It's also about Star Trek. I'm completely I could care
all I can do with Trek is TNG and Deep Space Nine, man. Those are the two, and a little bit of Voyager.
Oh, I will also say if you're a panelist on someone's show, I would say have the host direct when you want to change the subject. Because I've been on shows where people are like, well, we should change the subject. Well, you don't get to decide that. I get to decide that. You know, like I understand someone wants to contribute. I fully get that. But for that person or a person to be like, hey, could we change the subject? If people ask me politely, that's understandable. But if someone says, hey, change the subject, well, who the fuck are you? You don't decide
exactly.
Now, what the fuck? Hey, I don't know if you've been through that, but those things just piss me off so hard. It's like, hey, everyone here's having a good conversation. Just because you can't contribute doesn't mean I'm gonna stop having a good conversation because you can't. Like, that's kind of just very self-centered, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been in those boats before, and it does suck. And you know, even if it's just like a lighthearted, can we move on to the next topic sort of thing? Yeah.
It always just de-moods the stream, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you is, do you have anything planned coming up this year in 2024, leading into 2025 that people should be on the lookout for?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I relaunched my channel. It's YouTube, and I'll give you my link tree too, if you'd like to share that out. So I do multiple things. As I mentioned, I relaunched Extrazero, which is my my channel. I'm a member of the Gronk Squad, so every Sunday, which is the Australian Monday, I am on with those guys. It's Lethal Lightning, Mazza, Cream NATO, and we talk video games, and we have a lot of interesting discussions over there pertaining to gaming. A lot of different topics that people aren't covering. And the other thing too is we like to white pill the audience. We like to show you, like, there's a lot of people out there that are talking about gaming, in the decline and talking about all the shit that's happening in gaming. But we like to put indie games on your radar that you might not know about, and try to highlight the stuff out there that's good. Stuff that you should look for, places where you should spend your money. Like, yeah, you got to vote with your wallet, but voting with your wallet isn't just not spending money. It's sometimes giving people that you might not have on your radar the money so they can succeed, and the gamers can see, some good games out there succeeding that they maybe didn't know about. So I also edit for those guys too. I do the meme videos, so I'll cut up some of the stuff on Gronk Squad, and
Mhm.
I'll splice it up with memes. Our dude Ryan Reaper is out this week, so I've been editing the clips for the channel this week,
Yeah.
and I've done some pretty good
Mhm.
memes this week. I'm also Mr. Maz's editor. So over on Maz's channel, I'm going to be his official editor, doing all of his COD videos because Black Ops 6 on the horizon. He's
Oh,
going
hell
to
yeah,
have a lot
man.
of fun
Great.
playing
Yeah.
zombies. And I did his Apex video. I did a painstaking Metal Gear codec animation on the last one. I was like very impressed with myself for doing that. So having a lot of fun editing over there. And my main channel, Extrazero, which I mentioned, I'll be doing a few things over there. I'll be doing the Tuesday night live show,
Yeah.
0 hour. I'm also doing the zeroed in vlog. And then I want to do the extrospectives where I'm looking at, old and new figures, and they're not going to be toy reviews, but they're just going to be like my thoughts on what made them special. They're going to be heavily edited, and they're going to be informative because I want to make evergreen content, and I think that's
I do
you
too.
know
I've been always brainstorming it at work, but and I know those videos have to take a lot more longer to do. They're almost just like
yeah
video essays because for those
yeah
videos, I realize that if I'm recording them, I have to cut off at some point when I'm done talking because videos like that cannot be like you have run along sentences. You have to cut yourself
mhm.
off to go to a next point to fully explain that point, stop it, fully explain the next point. The one I'm going to do that I've not told people yet, I'm going to do the one where for Dragon Ball Z, remember the part where Goku gave Cell a senzu bean and they were mad
Yeah,
at him for doing that? I'm gonna do a video on that. That's my first one. Dragon Ball Z,
hell yeah,
why Goku giving Cell a senzu bean means nothing, and I'm gonna break it down fully. It's about to be probably my best video I've ever made, but I can't do it yet. People said, "Why can't you do it?" Because that takes planning to do. I have to actually
right. You
literally.
guys script it out, and
Well, it's not about. I have it in my head. I know what I'm gonna say, but I have to
mhm.
legitimately present you with Dragon Ball fans. You have to literally get them evidence. They aren't taking your word for it, even though they can look it up
Right.
themselves. I have to show you pictures on the screen, and then I also have to basically lay things out and like how I'm conversating with the people that are going to watch it because to understand context clues, how something's perceived on the screen. Actually, Chad says don't forget to watch the matches. I have not. I watched most of them, so I'm good. But I will get to the 3 matches that I haven't watched yet after we get on here. But last thing, man, any shout outs? You want to get to anyone in particular and anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, so like I said, if you're not already subscribed, well, if you get to see my link tree, check out the Gronkin Gaming channel. I've got my meme clips there. Give me a follow over on Twitter at Extra008. I post a lot of meme content there, a lot of gaming content, occasionally Transformer stuff, occasionally hot takes. But I'm making my way to 1,000 followers. So if you're interested in what I had to say or the stuff I'm putting out, give me a follow over there. And yeah, shouts out to my boys over at the Gronk Squad and Gronkin Gaming. We're having a lot of fun, and I hope people like the content because we're putting a lot of hard work into it. And we're going to be making evergreen content over there. My boy Lethal Lightning's been doing some video essays. He put out a really good one on Gears of War and why that game meant a lot to him. And I think everybody should go check that out.
Yeah, and people go definitely support Michael Bay's movies because he's obviously the greatest filmmaker of all time.
Support Transformers 1. Like, if you're on the fence
Yeah.
about it, like, trust me, there's no messaging in it. It is not woke. It is a great movie. It will probably surprise you.
What's crazy is that like thinking of this day and age coming in a few years, they're gonna do that Transformers G.I. Joe crossover film, which has zero hype from anyone you talk to anybody about it. And that's how you know a franchise is on the decline. If a collaborative effort can't get people interested, we might be on the downturn for this, actually.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you people, whenever it comes to reviews or anything, as I always say, you might like the person that you're listening to, you might respect their opinion, but always, if you can, because I know how life is and money right now, it's tough to people. If you can and if you want to, go out and watch the product for yourself in the theaters, or if you have to wait till streaming, watch it then. That way you can give your own informed opinion other than just listening to somebody else. So I feel like what a lot of people do is that they're always listening to the someone else. And to be fair, they might be right about the movie and you might actually agree with it, but it's different when you watch the product. You might disagree on what they like about it, but you still agree on the premise that it's not a good product. I'll say keep yourself informed, and to be fair, I might not like it either, or like whatever movie I'm talking about. It's an example, but at least if I watched it, I could give you my actual opinion on it. And then, hey, because if I haven't seen a movie or a TV show, I'll just be like, hey, I haven't seen it yet. I can't give you my opinion on it. No one does that. People go, well, if my favorite content creator says he doesn't like it, then I don't like it. And it's like, that makes you an NPC, right? That makes you a fucking bot. Like, I don't do that. If I say I haven't watched something, I have not watched it. I will give my opinion on it when I watch it,
Yeah, and I like to listen to a lot of different opinions before going in. I mean, that's what you do. That's why there's multiple film critics. That's why, you used to not only just, I mean, that was the beauty of Siskel and Ebert, right? Is that Roger and Gene didn't always agree on stuff, but you would watch them and you would start to say, hey, I watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of Siskel and Ebert. Or what was the other guy? The other big one, Gene Shalit. Like, you used to have all these critics back in the day, and you would find people that, they all had their own takes on movies, but you would find one where their takes seemed to align with yours.
Yeah.
But you still would listen to a lot of these guys. And that was where it would help you as a guide to spend your money. And I think now it's like people kind of pigeonhole themselves to like one reviewer or,
they'll pigeonhole themselves to thinking, well, if that person I automatically didn't like it, then that means that I'm not checking it at all. And it's like, well, it's one of those things where it's hard to really talk about some people because they just don't understand. It's always like, well, but why would I go spend my money on shit? No one's telling you to spend your money on shit. You could even just watch it because it's going to be on streaming at some point. You could just watch it from the comfort of your own home to even give your opinion on it, right? They don't even do that. They're just taking the word of that person and just automatically just writing it off. And it's like, you may have liked it and that person don't, because that's just how tastes are. Your tastes are different from someone else's. So you might have actually enjoyed what they didn't enjoy. Yeah. It's not a one size fits all thing for the most part,
And sometimes too, people, they're told by a favorite creator, go see this, it's great. And then they see it for themselves. They're like, it wasn't all that.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yeah.
And then you start feeling a certain way, like, man, was it me?
It's always me. It's not you. It's a breakup line. It's not you. It's me. But thank you, Extrazero, for coming on for his first time, and it was great having you on. Great conversation. Just letting you guys know, we will be back with another episode of the MSK show tomorrow at 8:39 p.m. PST. We're gonna have the Cloud9 podcast later on tonight. Season 13, episode 1, first episode of season 13. Super hyped to talk about League of Legends after seeing the things today, and